Welcome back to the continuation of portfolio theory class. I'm sure you've watched the introduction. So this is a continuation where we're going to look at the return of a portfolio, while we also consider the return of individual risk. But before we go into the return, there is need for us to touch the assumptions which are also seen as limitations of portfolio theory. The assumptions are seen as limitations because the assumptions are not realistic in practice. All right, so let's quickly look at them because they underpin what we assume under the portfolio return and risk. So for Roman figure 1, it says that projects are divisible. It assumes projects are divisible, but in the real world, projects may not be of such size that they are not easy to divide in accordance with recommended diversification principle. For portfolio theory assumes that if project A costs would cost $10,000 and I only have $3,000, I can invest in project A. That means project A is divisible. I can invest part of my capital in project A. So that is why, but in practice, not all projects are divisible. Not all investments are divisible. Number 2, the theory assumes that there are constant returns to scale. In other words, that the percentage returns provided by a project are the same, how much is invested in it. And in practice, there may be economics of scale to gain from making a larger investment in single projects, and there may also be decreasing return to scale. For example, this is costs for project A, and let us assume the profit on project A would be $5,000 by the time we invest 10 million in it. But since I do not have $10,000, so the profit on project A is $5,000 and I only have $3,000. So portfolio theory assumes that I can invest $3,000, which is a proportion of $10,000 the cost, and get the actual proportion of 5,000 profit, which gives me $1,500. So this means it is this result to constant return to scale. But in practice, there are economies of scale and there is also a decreasing return to scale, which means there is no accuracy of getting the exact proportion. Of course, it may not be accurate to get the exact proportion of capital invested in the project. So in practice, there may hardly be return to scale. So Roman figure 3 says it will be difficult in practice to know what are the shareholders' preferences between risk and return, and therefore to reflect these preferences in decision making. Portfolio theory assumes that there is a perfect market whereby the managers know the shareholders' preference, and so they can take any risk on their behalf. But in practice, they do not know the shareholders' preference because market is not perfect. Roman figure 4 says that the portfolio theory requires an assessment of probability distribution of the possible outcomes. An objective probability assessment is difficult in practice, which means in practice to derive probability distribution may not be easily come by. And the last, Roman figure 5, is the mathematics required to handle portfolio comprising of many assets is far beyond comprehension of many managers. All right, so from here we want to examine the return on portfolio. If you have not watched the previous video on introduction to portfolio, you may need to go back and check that, because there we discussed the return on individual assets, and then we established the fact that portfolio theory borrows its techniques from statistics, whereby return is represented by mean, while risk is represented by standard deviation. All right. So this is return, this is risk. All right. So let's look at the return of, so this mean and this risk are for individual portfolio, but our interest, the interest of portfolio, is the risk and return of a portfolio. All right. Of course, portfolio means a pool of investment. So for us to decide or to determine the return on a portfolio, we need to decide the return on individual securities, and then we find the expected return. So which means the return on portfolio will be weight of security A times the return on security A plus weight on security B plus the return on security B to weight on security N times return on security N, where weight means the percentage of your capital invested in a security, where R means mean, which is average return on a security. How do we calculate weight? Let us assume I have $10,000 to invest in Amazon and Unilever. If I invest $6,000 in Amazon and I invest $4,000 in Unilever, this means my weight in Amazon, written as WA, is 6,000 over $10,000, which will give me 60%. And my weight in Unilever is 4,000 divided by 10,000, and that gives me 40%. So 60% is my weight on A, and 40% is my weight on U, which is Unilever. And then take note that in case we are talking about two investment, 3 or 4, it is assumed that 100% of your capital is invested in the portfolio. Therefore, in the case of 2 assets, the weight of A plus the weight of B equals 100%, which is also equal to 1. So this is the explanation of portfolio returns variable. So let us examine a question, practical question. Okay, so here is a question. So let us examine a question. You have an excess cash of $1 million and have identified the following stocks. Stock AB, current price $40.50, expected price in 1 year 48.63, expected dividend. You have decided to invest $1,000 in stock A and $50,000 on stock B. Question: calculate the expected return on your portfolio. Port A. For B, now assume you desire an expected return of 28% on a portfolio. How would you invest your $1 million? And part C, alternatively, assume a desired return of 36%. How should you invest in each stock? All right, so let us examine it. So part A, calculation of expected return. So expected return of the portfolio is RP equals weight of A times the return of A plus the weight of B times the return of B. The weight computation now. The weight of A is the percentage invested in A, which is 750,000, divided by the total amount, 1 million, which gives us times 100 over 1, gives us 75%, while the weight of B equals 250,000 over 1 million times 100 over 1, and that is 25%. Okay, so that we need to calculate the return of A. We have been given in the question that the price in year 1 and the price in current price. So for A, it has 48 liter, which is 48 minus 40 all over 40 plus dividend, which is 0. So that gives us 20%. Return of B is 63 minus 50 plus 2 divided by 50. So this is 30%. So the portfolio return will be 0.75, which is 75%, into bracket 20 plus 0.25, 25%, into bracket 30, and that gives us, this is 50, 15 plus 7.5, and that gives 22.5%. So that is the return of the portfolio. I believe you're following the class. Please drop your comment on the comment section. Thank you. Next question is, to now you desired an outcome of 28%. How would you invest your 1 million naira? This one is asking us to determine the new set of weight with respect to the new portfolio return of 28%. Okay, which means instead of saying RP equals weight of A times the return of A plus weight of B, return of B. So what we're going to have is 28 equals the return of A was calculated as 20 and 30. So that is 20 WA plus 30 WB, because the RA equals 20 and the RB equals 30. So since we do not know WA and WB, weight of A and weight of B, so we come back to this understanding that the weight of A plus weight of B equals 100%, which is equals to 1. So let the weight of A equals X, and that of B will be equal to 1 minus X. That means if we have, that is, since the weight of A is X plus weight of B equals 1, this goes out there and become minus X. So that is why we have this. So when we substitute this for equation 1, we are going to have 20x plus 31 minus x, 31 minus x, which gives 28. I want to get a RP of 28, which is 20x plus 30 plus 30x equals 28. So 20 minus 30x equals 28. So 20x minus 30x gives minus 10x, and then this 30 goes out there and becomes minus 30. So minus 10x equals to minus 2, and we will divide this by minus 10, x equals to 20%, which is the same thing as weight of A. So from this equation, so the weight of B can now be 1 minus 0.2, which gives 80%. So which means if I want to have an expected return of 28% rather than the 22.5%, I should invest more in security security B, rather than the initial 75-25. Now it will be 80-20. Let us check why. The reason is because return of B is larger than the return of A, and so we should invest more in A. So the last question under this says, alternatively, assume you desire a return of 36%. How much would you invest in each stock? So it's still asking us to check the fact that we want 36% return. And so how should we invest in each stock? Which means part C is talking about calculation of new set of weight in order to get 36%. Okay, so the new set of weight will be just like the first case scenario here. So you might want to also do that from your end in the comment section. How many percentage of A are we going to get, and that of how many percentage of B are we going to get? Please drop your answer in comment section. I will put it down now as 36 equals to weight of A, return of A is still 20, and the weight of B, return of B is 30. So when we now follow the procedure of let weight of A equals X and weight of B equals 1 minus X. So when we substitute, we're going to have 20X plus 31 minus X equals 36. So 20X plus 30 minus 30X gives 36. So minus 30, that is 20X minus 30X gives minus 10X equals 36 minus 30, and that gives minus 10X equals 6 divided by minus 10 minus 10. So we have X to be minus 60%. So therefore, that's weight of A, which means the weight of B will be 1 minus 60%, which is 60%. Minus, so weight of B will be 1 minus, so weight of B will be 1 minus 0.6, which is 60%. So this automatically becomes plus, and then we have 1.6, which is equivalent to 160%. That means for us to have 36% return of portfolio, we need not to invest in security X at all, or rather increase our capital by 60%, so that and we invest only in security B so as to enjoy 30% return. So we have come to the end of computation of return. So in the next class, which is the next video, we're going to look at portfolio risk, which is represented as standard deviation of P. So please endeavor to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much. I'll meet you in the next class, which is portfolio risk.